The honourable member for Richmond.
Mr. Speaker, the damage being done to the economy of rural Nova Scotia by this NDP government is not just limited to manufacturing and tourism. Lobster fishermen in southwest Nova Scotia are facing low prices again this year. With the problems faced by workers at New Page, Bowater, Fundy Gibson, Georgia Pacific, workers in the forestry sector and the entire community of Yarmouth, workers in the lobster industry are going to have to struggle to make ends meet this season. And my question to the Premier, in the past 2 years in office, why has the Premier not been able to come up with a viable strategy for the lobster industry?
Honourable the Premier.
You know, Mr. Speaker, and now apparently low lobster prices on the international market is the responsibility of this government. Well, Mr. Speaker, it's hard to believe. But Mr. Speaker, that aside, Mr. Speaker, we have in fact been working with the industry. I believe, in fact, that having a strategy that allows the lobster industry to get their product into more valuable markets is the right thing to do. And in fact, that is something that we are working on of course, to work with the stakeholders themselves to develop that kind of a plan.
The honourable member for Richmond on his first supplementary.
You know, Mr. Speaker, it's interesting to watch the Premier belittle the economic crisis that's being faced by industries and businesses throughout this province. And, you know, I recall when he sat on this side of the House, and I don't remember back then him saying that the government had no role to play when this province was faced with an economic crisis. He called for leadership then, and we're calling for leadership from him right now. Mr. Speaker, this government should know that seafood is the largest export our province has, with the lobster industry playing a major role in the economic growth of our province. Mr. Speaker, this is an issue that the industry has raised with government over the last number of years and has called on government to work on a strategy to identify better markets. To their credit, the previous government did start the process of identifying new markets and showcasing Nova Scotia lobster to the world. So my question, Mr. Speaker, again to the Premier, is why has this government for the past 2 years not developed a comprehensive strategy for Nova Scotia's lobster industry?
The Honourable the Premier.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, I want to be clear. I was certainly not belittling the economic circumstances of the lobster industry. I was belittling the notion that we were somehow responsible for the international price of lobster, Mr. Speaker, which we're not. I want to point this out, Mr. Speaker. We have been engaged with the stakeholders in not just in the lobster industry, but indeed with the Minister of Fisheries through all of the various catches that are available in the province to try and make sure that they are able to maximize the value that they get out of their catch. Mr. Speaker, that work is proceeding, and we, of course, hope to have in place a strategy that will support the lobster fishermen and, of course, the fishermen in the other categories.
The honourable member for Richmond on his final supplementary.
You know, Mr. Speaker, 2 years into this NDP government, the Premier is still talking about working towards a strategy. This is now the second season where we see low lobster prices and the impact it's having not only on fishermen, their families, their communities, but on our province in general because of the fact seafood is our #1 exporter here in this province. So this is not a minor issue. This is an issue that's in the best interest of all Nova Scotians to see this industry be successful and see them get a good price for their product. So my question to the Premier is, are you prepared to table, or is the Premier prepared to table in this House the lobster strategy that his government has been working on for the past 2 years?
Honourable the Premier.
Well, Mr. Speaker, when we are in a position to be able to put forward a comprehensive plan, we'll of course do that. I think it's important to note that we continue to undertake all of those promotional activities on behalf of the lobster fishermen and on behalf of the other catches in the seafood categories. Mr. Speaker, we recognize that this is a great opportunity for us to have greater penetration into those markets. But we also recognize that because of the economic turmoil that's going on, the significant difficulties in the European economy, that the demand for many of those categories have fallen, Mr. Speaker, and of course that contributes to the very crisis that the member speaks of.